Good morning, my darlings, and welcome to day 15 of the 31 Days of Horror. And today I bring you a really old story from 1985 when I was 9 years old. It is Moo by James Herbert. This edition came out in the year 2000 by Pan Macmillan Limited when I was 24 years old. It's 24 years ago that this came out. This is a replacement for the one that I had because, as you all know, my James Herbert collection was stolen. It was first published in 1985, as I said, when I was 9 years old by New English Library. Well, we first meet John Childs while he's out snorkeling with his girlfriend, Amy Sevier. Yes, they're out snorkeling on the island of, I believe it's Guernsey. Yes, I'd like to think it's Guernsey or Jersey. It's one of the two. It's one that's nearest to France. I always get the two mixed up. While he's out snorkeling with Amy, he has an almighty vision, massive vision, that almost causes John to drown. And Amy realizes he's suffering, he's really struggling. So she reaches down to rescue him, basically, while they're out snorkeling, and brings him up to the surface of the water and brings him back to land and brings him onto the shore. But he's not very well at all. He's feeling very, very sick. He's swallowed water and he's shaking uncontrollably. And he admits to Amy that the visions have started again, which has made him feel really, really unwell. Yeah. She offers him a brandy. To help him get over the shock. Yeah. And he's shaking so badly that he feels incredibly unwell. And when they get back to the cottage, he actually runs full pelt into the bathroom and he's violently ill. And he escaped to the island to escape these visions, but they found him once again. Yes, the terrors of John's past. He went to the island because he wanted to have a new identity, basically. He was famous for catching a killer years before, using visions, his powers, and he just wants a new life, a new start, a new identity, right? He does not want to be remembered as the person who can, solve the unsolvable with his psychic visions. He doesn't want that level of attention. And who can blame him, really? Because it's not very pleasant. No, especially what he goes through when he's receiving and getting the information sent to him. It's not very pleasant at all. John has left his wife and child in London and has gone and basically he set himself up with a new life with Amy on the island. John becomes a teacher at the La Rochelle Ladies College, or the La Roche Ladies College, and it's an all-girls school, private school, of course. And that's where John is now the computer technology teacher. And he's teaching all the young ladies there to become computer literate because, as he says, that's the way the world is going. And if you want to have a chance at a job in life, then you're going to have to be computer literate. So that's why he ends up at the school. And that is predominantly where our adventure is centered around, as well as other places, but it's quite connected to the school. And that is where we have quite the terrible adventure. Indeed we do. Oh gosh, it's brutal. It's savage. It's absolutely savage what happens there. John is at a dinner party at Amy's parents' house. Yes, he is. And her father also has potential business partners, investment people there to have the dinner party with him. And it is during that dinner party that John has one of the worst visions he's ever had in his life. And there is so much blood. The blood is nauseating, and everybody thinks that he's having a seizure and a stroke, and he just collapses in front of everyone. Amy's father thinks he's been drinking, and Amy's mother is quite devastated actually that it would happen at such an important dinner party, and they're beginning to regret inviting him. It's quite the most moving vision that John has had in quite a long time, and it's at this point that a psychic link is made between John and the killer. And we start a game. The killer thinks he's starting a game of cat and mouse of who's going to find who first. Yeah, it's sorry, I wrote some notes for you. The killer is onto John's scent, you see, and he'll come out, or it, shall I say, it. It's not a he, it's not a she, it's an it at the moment. It comes out to the island to find John. But will John escape away from the killer? Will, he's managed to save Amy, his new girlfriend. His family's linked to this as well, because the killer knows his family in London. And that's quite fraught, very fraught. And there's a little missing girl called Annabelle. Will they find her? They want John to help find her, because obviously John has his amazing powers, doesn't he? Absolutely. Also, with the killer coming out to the island, will John be able to protect the young ladies of the ladies' college? Or will it be too late for them too? Just gonna have to read the book, aren't you, my darlings, to find out? Oh, yes, you are. Yeah. I mean, the weirdest thing about the killer are the moonstones. Oh, yes, so many moonstones. What do they represent? Is it the name of the killer? The monster, the creator of chaos? Who knows? Oh, sorry, I'm yawning. I've only just got up, but I'm yawning. Blimey. Yes. Didn't sleep very well last night. Probably dreaming about more horror books for you, my darlings. Oh, absolutely. But yes. So what do the moonstones represent? Oh, why are they turning up in the victims' bodies? John knows where these victims are, but the police and John are at an absolute loss as to why the prostitute and the boy have moonstones put inside their bodies. It's so weird. There's no there's no motive. It's just must be like a calling card maybe from the monster. Who knows? The question is, now that they're psychically linked, why must they find each other on the island? What does the killer want with John? Why is it after the schoolgirls? What does Amy have to do with it? And why John's ex-wife and child in London, why are they involved? It's all very confusing. All very confusing indeed. But the killer is not what it seems to be. Well, are they ever? I know, right? And has known John for such a long time. For such a long, long time has the killer known John. And John's known the killer, which is the weirdest part about it. They seem to be linked from the past. I don't know. Very strange. You see, John has the most amazing psychic links, and his powers are astronomical. They're immense. They're huge. But perhaps if I read the very, very, very beginning, you'll start to understand. Before the boy had stopped crying, he lay in his narrow bed, eyes closed, his face an alabaster mask in the moonlight. Occasionally a tremor would run the length of his body. He clutched the bed sheets, pulling them tight under his chin. A dreadful heaviness inside weighed on his body, a feeling that his blood had turned into liquid lead. The burden was loss, and it had left him exhausted and weak. The boy had rested there a long time. How many hours? He had no way of knowing, for all of the last 3 days had been a timeless eternity. But his father had forbidden him to move from the bed again. So he lay there, enduring the loss, frightened by the new loneliness, until something caused him to open his red-rimmed eyes once more. The figure stood near the end of the bed, and she smiled at him. He felt her warmth, the momentary shedding of bereavement. But it was impossible. His father had told him it was impossible. You can't be, he said, his small voice a shivery intrusion into the night. He says you can't be. The sense of loss was renewed, for now it was also within her. And then the startled boy looked elsewhere in the room, gazing upwards into the far corner, as if suddenly aware of yet another presence, of someone else watching him, someone he could not see. The moment vanished when footsteps were heard along the corridor, and he looked away. The first time, real fear in his eyes. The woman was gone. In the doorway stood the swaying shadow of a man. The boy's father stumbled towards the bed. The familiar reek of alcohol, as much a part of him as the perpetual sullenness of his features. I told you, the man said, and there seemed to be guilt mixed with anger in the harsh words. No more! No more! His fist was raised as he approached, and the boy cowered beneath the sheets. Outside, the full moon was clear-edged and pure against the deep blackness of the night. So that was before. Now we're going to read a little bit further. At last she was dead. Where there had been terror, there was now only emptiness. Dead eyes, those of a fish on an iced slab. Her body dormant, the final spasm exhausted, the final gasp silenced, her last expression dissolved. Clawed fingers still held the shape above her, one thumb curled inside its mouth as though she had tried to rip away the smile. The shape rose, releasing its grip from her throat. Its breath was barely laboured, even though the woman beneath had struggled for a long time. It pulled the thumb from its mocking lips, and the corpse hand fell away, smacking against bare flesh. It paused, studying the victim, smiling all the while. It reached for the lifeless hands, gripping their wrists, lifting them. It ran the cracked nails down its own face, drawing the shocked, stiffened fingers round its throat, as if taunting them, tempting revenge. A low chuckle derided their inertia. It trailed the hands across its exposed body, straddled over the corpse, moving them down so that they touched everywhere, caressed every part. The deathly soft stroking incited further sensations. The figure busied itself upon the woman's slowly cooling body. After a while, it rose from the bed, a light sheen of perspiration coating its skin. Not yet was it satiated. Cold drizzle splattered the window in sudden gusts as if protesting against the cruelty inside. Faded curtains closed against daylight muffled the sound. A bag in the corner of the dingy room was snapped open. The black package removed. The package was unrolled on the bed, close to the corpse, and the gleam of metal instruments was only slightly dulled by the poor light. Each one was lifted, examined, held close to the eyes whose gleam could not be subdued. The first was chosen. The body, cooling to room temperature, was sliced from sternum to pubic symphysis, then from hip to hip. Blood quickly seeped through the deep cross. The flaps were separated, then pulled back. Fingers already crimson delved inside. It removed the organs, cutting where necessary, and placed them on the bed covers where they glistened and steamed. The heart reached for last and, wrenched free, was tossed onto the heap. It slithered down the slippery mound and plopped to the floor. The sickly odour pervaded the room. A receptacle made, it was soon filled. The figure searched the room for small objects, but only after the dead woman's own appendages had been used. When at last it was satisfied, it drew needle and thread from the wrapping on the bed. It began to sew the flaps together again, piercing the flesh with large, crude stitchwork, smiling all the while, the smile broadening to a grin as it thought of the last object placed inside the body. Well, doesn't that just make you want to pick this darling book up? I mean, even the blurb on the back. The nightmare begins before you sleep. He had fled from the terrors of the past, finding refuge in the quietness of the island, and for the time he lived in peace. Until the sightings began, visions of horror seeping into his mind like poisonous tendrils, violent acts that were hideously macabre, the thoughts becoming intense. He witnessed the grotesque acts of another thing, a thing that glorified in murder and mutilation, a monster that soon became aware of the observer within its own mind and relished contact, a creature that would eventually come out to the island to seek him out. Wow, that doesn't just fill you with absolute dread. What is Moon? It's obviously a monster, But what kind of monster? And why does it want John? Is it because it fears John? Is it because he knows who John is? Oh, the evil tendrils of connected minds. It's macabre, evil, twisted, violently, insidiously sickening, but a very, very good read. An absolute 10 out of 10. You're playing the cat and mouse game all the way through. You're willing John to get away, and you're willing Amy, John's girlfriend, to get away, and his ex-wife and his daughter, and all the people that are inexplicably touched by Moon. And you're wanting them all to escape. But Moon will have its moment, and Moon will have its man. Or will it? You'll just have to read the book, my darlings, to find out. But it's a very twisted novel. And it's not for the faint-hearted. Absolutely not. But it's James, and it's an absolute classic. It's one of a childhood favourite, if you like. It's just so different for James. It really, truly is. And it's a powerful novel, a very, very powerful novel. And the death scenes are so unbelievably twisted and evil. I mean, it's classic James. And there's some wonderful vignettes in here as well, which I will not spoil, but I've read you 2 of them already. But they are incredibly gruesome, aren't they not? Yes, I think you'll really enjoy this one. And as for day 15, kind of halfway through, almost halfway through, halfway to Halloween. What a brilliant one to bring us to the halfway point. Moon. Yes, definitely. You will enjoy this one, my darlings. I'm absolutely, positively convinced of it. I will give it a solid 10 out of 10. Absolutely. Now, I'll say what I always say. If you've enjoyed what I've done, you can always give me a thumbs up. And if you really like what I've done, you can always give me a subscribe. And follow me for more gruesome, gory adventures as we go into the second half of the 31 Days of Horror. Who knows what I will end up with bringing you tomorrow, but it will be devilishly, ghoulishly good. I'm sure you will enjoy. Take care, my darlings, and happy readings and enjoy. Until tomorrow, take care, my loves. Bye-bye.